of the questions I get asked most by people who learn I have an eating disorder is, how did it start? How did you first know that you might have an eating disorder? I believe that in order to develop a full-blown eating disorder, as opposed to just disordered eating, there needs to be a genetic predisposition. Sometimes this predisposition never gets triggered, but it can be triggered by weight loss, by orthorexia, or the obsession with healthy eating, engaging with diet culture, purging, excessive exercise, and probably a bunch of other things that can trigger it. In my situation, it started off as a genuine intention to become more healthy. I was in college at the time, fresh out into the world on my own. I didn't have dance anymore as a physical activity. So I got really into the gym and really into controlling my food. Started off like following wellness trends, diets, and workout plans, and cutting out certain food groups. As time went on, it escalated and got increasingly restrictive, but I was congratulated for losing weight, for looking toned, for being really disciplined. And that's one of the things that's wrong with our society. We're so quick to view weight loss as a success. Only a couple people during this time became concerned about my physical and mental state. Truly controlling my body and my food became my whole world. I weighed and measured all my food. I tracked every milligram, every single calorie. It was an obsession before it became a compulsion. I have learned about what it means to go into starvation mode. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you are literally starving. It just means that there's a significant energy deficit present. Your brain goes back into survival mode because it senses this danger, and it perceives lack of substantial food as a dangerous situation. And for those prone to an eating disorder, this creates a negative association with food and rest. Whereas in those without the predisposition, the brain prioritizes food and rest. So that's kind of where the genetic component comes in. At some point for me, and I believe that this happened once I got below a certain weight, I genuinely stopped caring about what was healthy and just developed an intense fear of food. This is when the really severe anxieties came in. They were out of my control at this point and were automatic, which is kind of contradicting the illusion of control that having an eating disorder sometimes has. I stopped caring about what was actually good for my body. I didn't care about nutrition. I only cared about what the numbers were, meaning like the calories, and following weird food rules and rituals that I had developed. I was actually diagnosed after having lost my period for a number of months. I was really fortunate to have been diagnosed and gotten help for it pretty early on. Like at this point, I don't think I had been actively with an eating disorder for over a year at that point. It may not have been enough help at the time, but also eating disorders are so complex and adaptive that it's possible that any initial attempt at recovery might have been ineffective ultimately. Honestly, the first year or so of my eating disorder is kind of a fog. I don't remember how my life was at that point. I was so deep in it. No matter how much I struggle now, I'm so grateful for the knowledge that I've gained through the years of therapy and treatment, though. Eating disorders vary significantly on how and when they manifest, and I was lucky to catch mine pretty early on. But it's still been a journey and continues to be one. I've learned not to blame myself like I did in the beginning for having this as my struggle. For a long time, I just thought that it was my fault. and that I had given myself this eating disorder and ruined my life, essentially. Like, it's taken up a lot of my life and a lot of my time and energy, both dedicating it to the eating disorder and also dedicating those things to recovery as well. Like, it's been a long, hard journey, and it's not over yet. The fact that I don't blame myself anymore is a huge milestone. I always say, like, the first step is removing shame and guilt. But this is just my unique experience, and I hope that this shines some sort of light on the development of eating disorders and how they manifest and how tricky they are to catch. But yeah, anyway, I hope that answers some questions.